Society today is demanding more and more evidence that companies are performing in a manner that is environmentally responsible.
This study came about primarily because over the last 20 years, there's been an enormous interest in beginning to look at full life cycle impacts from mining all the way to fabricating to a tube or sheet, and then how it goes into a building.
The life cycle inventory was conducted because it provides a good platform for doing an analysis that demonstrates environmental performance.
The downstream market is now asking for life cycle information.
We have tens of thousands of suppliers at the downstream end of the supply chain, and it allows us to focus on just those suppliers who are actually supplying copper and would be responsible for a life cycle analysis.
It gives us a quantitative expression of the usefulness of that copper through the entire value chain, all the way from finding copper in the ground to its end of life after it's been manufactured and used in society.
We had 10 companies participating in the development of the LCA study, representing 13 different countries. That was extremely valuable because what it allowed us to do was to get a reasonable representation of the copper production around the world.
The focus of this analysis was on those that are the biggest companies that in fact might have the biggest impact in terms of the energy demand, in terms of the environmental performance, and the tonnage of copper that they produce.
The review process typically has people who understand this methodology of life cycle assessment, as well as people who technically are very knowledgeable and competent when it comes to the product.
I was one of the members of the critical review team for that study that has the task to assess whether this study of the International Copper Association complies with the international standards of life cycle assessment ISO 14040 and ISO 14044.
In the end, we captured 30% of the copper industry by production volume, which represented the major producers of copper cathode.
The life cycle information is valuable to the companies for a couple of reasons. One, it allows them to, as they work through life cycle assessment and working through ICA, they really have a way to define and provide the environmental footprint associated with copper production. Right now, we're seeing an enormous amount of interest in the building construction sector, in the electronics sector, in the automotive sector, and even in the retail sector of demanding greener products.
It will be used by the companies that contributed their data to the life cycle analysis to judge their own performance today.
I think this is an area where the copper industry is actually being proactive and ahead of the curve in terms of demonstrating the life cycle analysis.
The building and construction industry is using more and more life cycle assessment because rating systems like the U.S. Green Building Council's LEED system or the Green Globe system, they use life cycle results to assess a building so people can fully understand the economic implications of a product.
Things like life cycle will continue to be requested of the supply chain. Intel itself has a scorecard that we keep for our suppliers and drive our suppliers to expectations.
The LCI is useful for the consumer public to understand that the products that they are buying in the marketplace are produced in a manner that is responsible and consistent with longevity and improving society for future generations. I would say that the industry is acting responsibly, being good environmental stewards in conducting such an analysis, and engaging this kinds of self-analysis to understand what their performance is like.
One of the questions I'm often asked is is it a must or is it a nice to have? And one of the things that we found 5 years ago, I would have said it's a nice to have. Now, as far as I'm concerned, it's a must. As we've seen with the downstream market, with automotive, building construction, retailers, they're all now demanding greener products, greener materials, and if you don't have full environmental footprint information, then you're not going to be able to compete in the marketplace in the future.